Yes. Thanks everyone for joining our fourth and actually last Mentor Zoom of the school year. It has flown by. Your juniors are trying to get ready for senior year, which I will cover in today's presentation. But as always, if you have any technical issues, send me a text and I will try to do what I can while simultaneously presenting. I will say a lot of what we're covering today is actually about what they're doing to prepare for next year because we're kind of in that phase where we're trying to just get them ready because senior year, I feel like sometimes hits students like a truck and they feel completely overwhelmed. So we try to bring it down for them as best as we can to really lay everything out so that they can breathe a little bit. And what you'll even see with your students is they might tell you that their friends haven't done as much or aren't doing as much as they are to prepare. And it's a good thing because the students, when they're in their senior year, will start to say, I'm done, and my friends are barely starting. And they feel so happy and so proud. And honestly, it looks like they got some freedom but they're excited about those stages. But we do try to do it early. So today I'm going to cover what we've actually already even started doing with your students, so that you guys can have some conversation topics and kind of re-emphasize for us, the things that we're hitting with them. Um, I got to give a big shout out to the team. They went with their juniors on the spring break trip. Nita, Esmeralda, Jorge, and Abby. If you've never traveled with 35 juniors, 35 17-year-olds, I don't recommend it, honestly. But our kids were great. They really did have a great time, and the team really kind of coached them through each step and what they were doing. But also, Amanda and Monica started talking to them about what happened on the spring break trip when they're at their work site. So, if you didn't know, these are the places that they did get to visit. They started off in Gainesville with University of Florida in Santa Fe. Day two was Tallahassee with Florida State University and Tallahassee State College. And then day three was the University of Central Florida. And on the trip, they got to see Southern Scholarship Foundation. If you didn't know, the Southern Scholarship Foundation provides free housing for students who qualify. All they have to pay is the meal plan, which is about $800 for the entire semester. So they get free housing, and then they have an $800 bill for food, but that food is 3 meals a day for the entire semester. What's great about the Southern Scholarship Foundation as well is, Jorge had mentioned it during a meeting this morning, it prepares them for life when you're on your own. It gives them, they're living in a house with about, it could be as little as 10 people or even up to like 25. But each person in the house gets chores, responsibilities. They might have to cook, they might have to clean the restroom, they might have to run to the grocery store to get the supplies for the week. It teaches them budgeting, interacting with others. And the fact that everyone in the house is focused on school gives them a close group of friends that they're going to have for the next several years. And in the Southern Scholarship Foundation, they also provide them housing as long as they're a student in that city. So if they go to the University of Florida, or sorry, if they go to Santa Fe College, get their AA, transfer to the University of Florida, and then go to either of those schools to complete graduate school, that housing is guaranteed for them until they finish. Uh, they met some students who were there for 7 or 8 years because they've done their undergrad, they've done the grad school. It's a great package. But what I highly encourage all the mentors to do is talk to your student about the trip. What did they experience on the campus? What did they think of the schools? The very next day, I had two juniors in front of me who said that they really thought they were going to like UF. And me being a Gators fan and have attended UF, I was really happy for them. And then they said, I liked FSU more. And so I told them I didn't like them anymore. But no, they were just talking about how the schools weren't exactly what they expected. It was something different. It was, seeing a campus for the first time fully active. None of the schools were on spring break, so they got to see a campus with 40 to 60,000 students. So talk to your mentee, what did they feel like on that campus? And ask your student, did they make any notes so that when they're a senior, they can remember what it felt like to be on these college campuses and whether or not they can handle being at a big school. some of the students will realize, I can't be in a lecture hall with 300 other students. Um, so they're going to want that small school feel where they're in a classroom with 20 to 25 and they have one-on-ones with their professor. So bring it up to your student. I definitely encourage that because it's going to make a big difference. I do have, oh, sorry, I have it in a later slide, but I'll talk about some of the other schools we're visiting. All of your students have been assigned a summer program. These are the 5 we are visiting this summer with your students. So I will be traveling with the students to Hanover College June 7th, June 11th. Abby will be traveling to Robert Wesleyan July 12th to the 18th. Jorge and Anita will be traveling to Alfred U. and St. Mary's July 12th to the 17th. And July 19th to the 23rd will be Jim to St. Mary's. The kids are split up. So each camp only has between 5 and 9 students. Your student will probably also tell you that they're scared because they're not going with their friends. We did that intentionally. We separated them from their closest friends. We wanted them to feel what it's like to be on a college campus, be unfamiliar with others, and learn what it's like to introduce themselves to someone new, to make friends, to just get comfortable being out on their own. Now, many of your students are going to say they're they're honestly terrified because they're going to be alone. It might be their first time on a plane. It might be their first time outside of Florida. They're just going to be scared in general, but that's okay. We do. Each staff member is traveling with the students because if there's an emergency, we are there in the area to go and make sure that the student is taken care of and okay. That also puts a lot of trust within the parents to know, like, hey, if something does happen to my child, I'm going to have the cell phone number to the staff member who's going to be there. And that way they can make sure that everything's going okay. So far, we haven't had any incidents. We did have one a few years ago, but it was the student had a root canal infection that she didn't know about, and it didn't affect her until she was up there. So Jorge, as our staff member, took her to urgent care. They gave her some medication, and she was all good. But that's exactly why our staff is there. Many of your students are going to experience that being away from home feeling, but they're also going to come back knowing whether or not they can handle being outside of Florida and whether or not that's the program they want to study. We used the career and major research that they completed last year as sophomores, as well as some of what they did this year to pair them up with a program that they're interested in. So the students are all doing, maybe they're interested in nursing, so they're doing a health science program or a nursing program itself. Alfred is all about engineering. St. Mary's is for all girls, and it's also, it has health sciences, nursing, and education. Roberts has a variety, but each one of your students was matched with that program in mind. And that's also why where we split them up so that we can make sure that they're experiencing what it's actually like to be a college student for the first time. And it is scary, but talk to your student about them. Ask them which one they're going to, what their dates are, how they feel about it. Ask them how their parents feel about it. We had a parent meeting, and we're going to have several others. Most of the parents were a little nervous, but to us, they said, it's okay. We trust Guadalupe to do what's best for them and to give them that exposure. But please ask your student, how they feel about it. What's got them most excited? What's got them most nervous? Is there anything that really concerns them? If there's anything they share with you, like maybe they don't have a suitcase, or maybe they don't have enough clothes, or maybe they're just worried about being away from their family because, they won't have their support, let me know. And that way we can make a meeting with them and make sure that the family or they are going to be okay during that trip. We're happy to set that up for the students. But it's very, very exciting. I know a lot of the students are ready to go, and they're just thinking, this is going to be a lot of fun. And sometimes they often think, oh, I'm just going to be there and hang out. No, they're in a classroom. They're with a professor. They're learning lessons in each of these topics. So it is incredibly helpful for them to do. So one of the big things that the students have already done, last Wednesday was an early dismissal day. So that marked the start of when we were going to start with them, their senior items. The STARS is the self-reported transcript and academic record system. To the students, it sounds long, it sounds complicated, but it's really just the students plugging in their classes and their semester grades into an online portal. There are various schools here in Florida that do require it, such as University of Florida, Florida State, and University of Central Florida. This one is long just because they have to plug in each class that they've taken for each semester grade that they've gotten. So if your student was in Algebra 1A and 1B, even though that's technically only one class, they have to put in both and they have to put in their semester grade. And they have to do that for every class that they've taken. So they have 21 for the last 3 years. And then they're also going to put in what they expected to take next year. For most of them, we told them to hold off for next year's because they don't actually know what classes they're taking pretty much until the first day of school. But with that, that means that they'll have the other three knocked out. The progress does save. So ask your student, how did it go with stars? How did you feel about it? We had them here as a class, all doing it together. Anita and Esmeralda walked them through it. A good amount of them did finish it, but I will say some of them didn't. But that's the start of the process. Um, Not every single school requires the stars, but we want to make sure that everyone can get a jump on it. The other thing, pretty much all the juniors have already started their FAFSA as well for the 26 to 27 school year. Now they're going to be high school seniors, but if they start in the summer after their senior year, so if they're accepted for summer term, which is common with our students, they will need that 26-27 FAFSA. The reason we also do it so early is because if they run into any issues, maybe one of their parents doesn't have a social security number, maybe neither does. Maybe they went to someone that they know for taxes and they've actually been filing it incorrectly for the last few years. We jump on that now to fix those mistakes and fix those errors because once October rolls around and they have to complete the FAFSA for the 27 to 28 school year, if they're running into any issues then, when we try to call the customer support line or any advice line, they're going to be filled. When we fill it now, we only have to be on hold for like less than 5 minutes. At the peak of FAFSA season, the longest hold time I've ever gotten was 2 hours. So the student and I hung out in my office for 2 hours. After about 30 minutes, I'm like, you know what? You can just play on your phone, watch whatever. I'm going to do some emails. So we don't want to run into that. So that's why we do have them complete it early. When they complete their FAFSA, it is tied to their social security number. They only get one FSA ID per social security number. So if they mess it up, if they forget it, then that's where we have to call FAFSA to reclaim that account. They'll add in their phone number and email address as two-factor authentication. But a good amount of them have completed it. So as mentors, ask your student, how do you feel about the FAFSA? Do you feel a little simple? They'll have to complete it every year that they're also in college for the following year. So it's very important that they keep that username and password. And they're making those accounts for their parents as well. So if they lose that account information when they're, say, a sophomore at possibly Roberts Wesleyan University in Rochester, New York, they're going to have to try to reclaim everything via the phone, calling their parents, trying to get authentication codes. It can be troublesome. So, ask your students, how did that go? How do you feel about it? Some of them may have an older sibling who already did it. So they only had to create theirs. The parents already had it. They already know the process. So it gets easier with the siblings. But, ask your students, how'd it go? Some of your students will have also already received an SAI, which is the Student Aid Index Number. It used to be called the EFC, the Estimated Family Contribution. Basically, what the number says is how much the IRS and FAFSA believe that the family can contribute to your student's education. With the SAI, the lower the number, the better. It can go as low as negative 1,500, and then it goes up to, I think it's about 99,999. But the lower the number, the better. Most of our students fall at zero or under. We do have a few students who are a little bit above that, but we work with them, coach them, and guide them through it. Any questions on FAFSA before I keep on? Cool. Cool. Oh, this they haven't started, but they're going to be starting in the next few weeks. And this is probably one of the scariest things your students will do because they are terrified of asking people for things, especially people that they're not friends with. So, we're going to tell them to start asking people for their recommendation letters. They can ask anyone that's not a relative. So, they might even ask you as their mentor for a recommendation letter. They can ask a counselor, they can ask a teacher, a coach, whoever. We tell them, hey, you should also send them your resume so that they know what you're doing outside of their program, because that's just what they're going to want to see. And if they wanted to include their transcript as well, that kind of shows them, their grades, their classes, how they've been doing, so that whoever is recommending them can include all of that. They'll also need their unofficial transcript from their counselor for referencing whenever they're filling out applications, what classes they've taken, what the grades have been in those classes. Most of them do have a copy because they completed the STARS, which required the transcript. But if, say, since it was already last Wednesday, I imagine about half the students probably already misplaced where they left it or forgot how they accessed it. So they just need to keep accessing it to be able to plug in that information. Um, Most of the students are scared of emailing someone that they're not familiar with, or that they haven't spoken to in a while. But they're able to ask recommendation letters from their sophomore year teachers, freshman year teachers. We try to get them not to do middle school teachers just because that was so long ago. But if there's a teacher that they're still communicating with that was from eighth grade that they still keep up with, they are welcome to ask that. That is okay. All right, I'll keep going. They'll also start the Common application. If you don't know, the Common App is one application that they can fill out for over a dozen schools. It goes up to 20. And then if they go back in and adjust their schools, they can apply to 20 at a time. It's one portal. It's real simple. It's the same information that every school needs. And then they'll have what you call school specific questions, where they'll input the schools they're interested in, and those schools will have questions that are outside of the Common App that they can fill out. We will push most of the students to apply through here unless there's a benefit to applying to the school directly. For example, for Florida State University with the CARES program that provides services to first gen and minority students, their application requires to be filled out through the FSU website rather than the Common App. That's pretty much the only school that we've seen. But if we see something online that a student might benefit more, if they do the school application itself, we will tell them to do that. They will be starting this within the next month. So, talk to your students right now about what schools are they actually interested in. They talk about, for our side, we talk about the 3 reach schools, the 3 just right schools, and the 3 safety schools. What are they reaching for? What do they match? And what are they definitely going to get into? Some students are on a very much higher level where they know, like, hey, this is the 2 schools I'm applying to. I know I can definitely get into this one. If I don't get into this other one, that's where I'm going to go. That's okay too. We just want to make sure that students are applying to several, because when it comes to financial aid packages, we want to make sure that they're going to have something realistic. Again, it's something that will be starting soon, but they're going to use it constantly throughout the fall. Uh, it's it's a long process, I would say. Their biggest project by far is going to be their senior essay. There are 7 prompts that the Common App asks for them to fill out the essay. While I can go over the prompts, the last prompt is actually talk about anything you want. So it's kind of a moot point. But what we tell students often this year was, if a college representative could know one thing about you, what do you want them to walk away with? Many of the students are going to talk about the clubs they participated in, or what they did in class, or anything that was extracurriculars that's on their resume. And when we look over those, we tell the student, hey, I saw this in your resume, or I saw this in your transcript. What's something else that you want them to know? This is their chance to say, this is what my family has done for my parents, or how I'm motivated as a young individual to go to school. This is their chance to share something that someone wouldn't typically know. We, I have seen some incredibly powerful essays from our seniors. I've also seen some essays where the student is kind of lost and says, I don't really know what to talk about. Many of them may not know what to brag about. So ask your student, if there's one thing, like if I never knew you, never met you, but I'm meeting you for the first time, what's one thing you would want me to walk away with? That can really help drive the point home to give them their main idea. A lot of the students are going to talk about, so just to kind of clarify, we go through several drafts with the students on their essay. Anita and I, that's pretty much a lot of what we do from August through October. The students go through, I would probably estimate between 15 and 20 drafts. It's a very long process, but Anita and I go through every single essay, make edits, rearrange, find different words for them to use to help them really brag about themselves. Um, Students will try to talk about their parents and their journey to Immokalee or to Florida or to the US, how they immigrated, how they're working hard. That's okay to touch on as a little piece of their topic, but we don't want it to be their whole essay because it's about, again, about them, not about their parents. Maybe your student's going to talk about how their parents are currently in school or they're working hard, or maybe their sibling has difficulties. Again, it's okay to briefly mention that, but that shouldn't be their main focus. You probably, as a mentor, might know what your student has struggled, what they faced, what has, really been their main obstacles the last few years. As mentors, I would recommend to ask them, how do you feel about sharing that? Some of your students may not feel comfortable sharing some of the obstacles they face. Um, that's okay. We just got to find the next one to go on. But sometimes maybe it's something that could really make a powerful essay and they just need a little push to feel comfortable sharing that. If that's the case, let me know because this can sound really bad, but I push students all day long to get out of their comfort zone. Because again, what they're sharing is something that they feel comfortable sharing. But if they can share something that really is that motivating factor, it can make a huge difference into that college application. It could be the reason that they get an admission, a scholarship, possibly even a full ride. Um, One of our seniors this year talked about her journey, and well, you guys have the junior, so I'm not spoiling anything, but she's actually going to talk at senior celebration. She's going to talk in her senior essay. She talked about a little bit about how her parents immigrated here, but how they showed her that education was the key, and that when her parents split up, she went with her dad, and her dad unfortunately disowned her. She returned with mom, and then now she's focused on education. She realized with Guadalupe that the world isn't just Florida. When she attended the summer program her junior year, which really pushed her to go out of state, and how she really has a mountain to climb, but that she's gonna do it and she's gonna accomplish it. So, a, senior essay can be very powerful. The student just has to approach it the right way. If you feel like they're nervous or maybe they're lost, let me know. We encourage them all to share with you. And as mentors, I encourage you to ask your student for their senior essay. And again, I just want to say from here, they're gonna have a lot of rough drafts. It it's okay. We work through that so that they can have the best possible essay by the time they're submitting applications. Any questions? You guys don't have anything today, so I'm going kind of quickly through my slides. um, Gloria, did you have one?
Yeah, I did. And I don't know how, this is a broader application question. It's my understanding that nobody got into the University of Florida this year, which is
Yes.
unusual. We usually had previously several seniors were able to get into University of Florida. Do you have any insight on that? Could it be related to less emphasis on having a diverse student body?
Yeah.
And
So
if and my second part of my question is, if so, how do our students um, address their essays to deal with a different application environment?
Yeah, so with both the University of Florida and Florida State, with both schools, we saw a major decline in admissions for our students. Typically, we'll have about 5 to 7 students get accepted into each school. This year, I believe we saw 2 students get into FSU and none get into UF.
Wow.
From what I was researching and looking at online and reading different articles. From what I saw, they accepted a lot more students who were coming from outside the state of Florida who could pay the cost to go to school, not so much students who needed financial aid. For our students, that's going to be an impossible roadblock because no matter what, most of them are going to need financial aid. I would still, I know there is some discussion about, how they want a less diverse or how they don't want to risk anything with DEI or anything like that. I would still push our students to tell their story, no matter what it is, because if they can get the right person who's reading the essay and they can get them to feel what that student is feeling, nothing else is going to matter and they're going to want to accept that student. It's a tough situation, I will say, because I have like at least 4 seniors this year who I thought were definitely going to get into the University of Florida and get their full ride matching scholarship. And when the news came that none of them got in, I was stunned and speechless for a few days. Um, I will say it. I can't tell you what's going to happen this upcoming year. Just that we'll prepare the students as much as we can, and hopefully cross our fingers and pray. I guess. I know it sounds bad, but that's really all I can say.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mary.
Hi, sorry I checked in late. So that is my question. So you were giving a lot of different things that they're working on. The senior essay sounded like it's going to be more of a late summer, fall thing. Now these other things, FAFSA, recommendation letter, common application, are they starting that this year? All of those things, or are they still next fall?
They're all starting everything this year. It's a long process. So they'll all be working on it from now all the way until basically about November.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Since there is so much with it, like I know I gave a lot. A student may typically jump from one item to another. One thing that they'll also experience is the essay fatigue. Some of them have really good essays, but the fact they've read it and reviewed it so many times, they look at it and say, "I don't really like this anymore," or "I feel like this isn't right." Sometimes that's where we'll jump in and say, "No, no, no, don't delete that essay. What is it that's making you feel that way, and let's address that instead of starting completely from scratch." So yeah, go ahead, Lila.
Do any of the staff members write recommendations?
Yeah, we have written recommendation letters for a few students. So yeah, we do that. Any other questions? Okay, I can
Just
go ahead,
going
Lauren.
back to an earlier slide, do the students know where they've been matched to their summer programs and have all the parents agreed?
We matched them all, I want to say about 3 weeks ago. Students were made aware, I want to say about 2 weeks ago, but all the students know and all the parents know as well.
Thank you.
Mhm. So I know there's a lot more universities in Florida. With our spring break trip, I know we visited Gainesville, Tallahassee, and Orlando. And many of the mentors do often ask, what about the other schools? The reason we hit Gainesville, Orlando, and Tallahassee over spring break is that they're just so far away that we could never realistically make a day trip to that school and back within the same day. We try to keep our budget as low as possible. For the schools on the screen right now, USF, FIU, FAU, and our goal is to take them this summer on day trips to those campuses in our Guadalupe Center vans. This way, we only have to pay for gas for our Guadalupe vans and for lunch. This way, we're not having to pay for a charter bus, hotel, or anything like that. We will also try to visit some more of the local small schools in these areas, but these are our big 4 targets that we definitely try to hit. But we do have often visited other schools in those areas. When your student is either working or volunteering, or maybe they even have an internship, sometimes these trips may not be possible for them. But our first audience we target is our juniors. We try to fill up both vans with the juniors, and if we have spots available, we will then offer it to sophomores and then freshmen. We visited USF every summer for the last since I've been here. So that's definitely one we will hit. The other schools, we will make it our goal to hit, and we have hit at least 4 to 5 schools every summer. The only summer that stopped was a few years ago, and that was because a van actually broke down on us while we were out there. That was fun because I got to push a van out of an intersection. So if you've never pushed a vehicle alone, I don't recommend it. But we were able to hit still a few schools, and we will target these with your students. Tell them to be on the lookout. Are there any that they're interested in? That way they can feel like, hey, maybe I need to be alerted. Maybe I need to talk to Anita or Daniel to let me know, like, if this school specifically is going to be visited. That way I can go on that trip. Yeah, and so as we wrap up junior year, again, we have their GPA, dual enrollment GPA, how much funds they've accrued in scholarship money. If your student is low in their scholarship hours, they've been learning that over the last 2 weeks. Again, it's 280 hours for the 4,000. Most of the students are at least above 200, 210 at this point, and there's another 80 to 90 hours available in the school year. We have their majors. That's how we match them up to their summer program. Esmeralda has also been closely monitoring their SAT and ACT registrations. That way she can coach them on the testing and what scores they need. The FSA IDs, we try to track them, but we also try not to put them in any, we try to make sure they're secure, because that FSA ID does have access to their social security number, their date of birth, their ID, all of that stuff. So if a student wants us to hold on to it, we typically give it to our HR, who keeps it in a safe. This is also the point where your students are going to start to feel how important the SAT and ACT are. So Esmeralda is going to be spending a lot more time on Magoosh so that they can do the test prep on top of the stuff that they're using to prepare for senior year. If you want to meet with your students on a Saturday here at our campus, we do have 3 dates available in April, May, and June. If you're perhaps leaving for the summer and want to see them in person and need a spot, just let me know and I can connect you with our staff member who will be here that day to help you on campus. We have now finished all of our events. As a mentor, you'll also get invited to our senior celebration. Your juniors will not typically attend that unless they have a sibling who's a senior. But I will say it's my favorite event of the year. We celebrate our seniors, their mentors, the families, announce some special scholarships, announce where they're committing to go to school and what they're majoring in. It smiles all around and it's a great event. So if you're interested, I highly encourage you to attend it. It's a wonderful one. Any questions?
Daniel, it's Ron.
Go ahead, Ron.
Going back to your discussion about the large Florida universities not accepting, students in need, has anybody considered writing the governor's office about that? That is a hot topic nationally, where state universities are accepting foreign students or students with wealth in lieu of students in need. And I would think that if somebody, it's always sensitive, but I would think that if somebody gently brought that to the governor's attention, he might take some interest in it.
From the articles I read, I know there was a lot of focus on that and a lot of conversation. I'm not sure what actually happened with that, but Dawn said she's doing what she can on her end. Dawn's a great advocate for us all over the state of Florida, I would say. So I know she's doing something in the background that we probably don't even know about.
Okay, good.
Any other questions on anything? I know the end came kind of quick. Go ahead, Linda.
Remind us of the dates that flashed on that screen for next year. Could you repeat those, please?
For next year?
Yeah, the November 11th is the tutor dinner, January 24th of 26 is the cultural event. What were the other two dates?
Oh no, those were from this past year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no,
Thank
I
you.
was just wrapping up. I am currently working on the calendar for next school year. I'm trying to have that before the end of July for the whole school year with all the dinners, Zooms, cultural event, and picnic.
Okay, great.
Daniel, I have a quick question. Excuse my ignorance, but when you touched at the beginning, talked about the Southern Scholarship Foundation, what is that exactly? I don't quite understand how that works and what the whole package is.
Yeah. So it's free rent for them while they're in school in Gainesville, Tallahassee, and Fort Myers. That's
Uh,
where they have their campuses. So if your students are interested in attending University of Florida, Santa Fe College in Gainesville, Florida State or Tallahassee State College, or even FGCU, Florida Gulf Coast, SSF has housing at those three facilities where they will provide them free rent.
uh,
They will then charge them for a meal plan, but they
yeah.
only charge $800 for the entire semester, and that's 3 meals a day, including weekends. It's a really wonderful opportunity. They basically get to stay in the same room for all of their 4 years, and they are guaranteed housing year round. So, spring break, winter break, summer break, if your student doesn't want to come home, they don't have to. I know sometimes family situations can be kind of volatile, so maybe they want to stay at school. That housing opportunity does give them that chance. Most of our students who have gone through SSF have matured incredibly within a year because they are then going to be they have a chore or two per week. They might be responsible for shopping for the house, for groceries. They might be responsible for cleaning the restroom. Everyone contributes. The
Right.
smallest house that I've seen is about 10 people. The biggest one I've seen is about 25. Some students don't like the idea of having to be in a house to do chores when they're in school, but it's basic stuff. So they got to see the SSF in Gainesville. That might be one of their biggest campuses because they have about, I want to say, 10 houses. Um, they accept a few students every year because, again, they're guaranteed that housing while they're in school. So if they do decide to go to graduate school, medical school, law school, whatever it is, they can stay in that house for however long. So
Well, generally speaking, how many of our students do that?
we had one go 3 years ago. We had one go last year. I would say between 1 and 2 every year. Some students get way too excited about living in a dorm by themselves for the first time and not having any responsibilities. Uh, I will say I prefer SSF for most students because it keeps them on track.
Okay, thank
Can I
you.
just ask, how do our students apply for that? If
So
they're
when they
interested,
were
what is
on
the
the tour,
process?
when they were on the tour, they got given the information. But when they're seniors, we'll also remind students of the opportunity, so that way they can get the link again. It's all done online. If they get selected for the next step, they get interviewed via Zoom, and then they announce afterwards who was selected.
How is this funded?
Uh, to be completely honest, I'm not entirely sure. I just like to use it. um, I'm sure they have their own philanthropy side and fundraising side, and they might even possibly get some funds from the school since they are providing housing for their students. It looks like they're on Charity Navigator as well. So
Um,
if anyone wants, I can include the link in my recap, and that way you guys can check it out if you'd like.
yeah, I'd like to.
I have a quick question.
Go ahead, Mary.
I know I missed this. Had talked about the summer trips before I got on, I think. But I just had one question. So when they travel to these summer trips, are they traveling with others or are they usually by themselves?
So each trip has between 5 and 9 students, along with a staff member.
Okay, perfect. Because I
If
think when I
if
talked to mine, she thought she was going to be traveling by herself. So, okay.
If they have a layover and enough time in that layover, we'll actually push the students to guide the group. That way they kind of get that experience of being in a brand new airport and having no idea where anything is and trying to learn the signs and find their way. If there's not enough time in the layover, then we take charge because we're not trying to get lost in between. What we do experience, ask your students if they've ever been on a flight before with a layover. For the students who've never been on one, they always think that when they get to their layover flight or to their stop, that they have to exit the airport and go through security again to pick up their bags and then
Right.
recheck them in. And it happened several times. We even had one time where two students wandered off without telling anyone, and I caught them before they went through the gate. It's probably the most nerve-wracking but hilarious situation I've ever been in. It's also really funny because we're adults traveling with 5 to 9 students. Anita 2-3 years ago was traveling with 18 of them. So people either think we're some sort of religious cult or that we might be trafficking children, which we're not doing either of those.
Yeah.
But it is great to see the students experience the airport for the first time because they're amazed. And being on the plane, you can tell the ones who are absolutely terrified and the ones who just want to stare out the window the whole time.
Thank you.
Well, that never changes.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions? All right, I am going to, well, thank you all for joining the Mentor Zoom. I'm very appreciative of all of you through this year. I will send the calendar for next school year as soon as I can. If you requested a breakout room with your mentee, feel free to jump on. I mean, feel free to stay on. Anyone who did not request one, feel free to jump off. If you said you were going to do a FaceTime with your student, feel free to hop off as well. But thank you, everybody. I appreciate all of you.